Thanks, Gillum, and Nastenka and Tara and everyone who brought this together. So I'm Niet. I'm an assistant professor of professional practice. I'm the principal investigator in the Delta E Plus research group. I'll talk a little bit more about what that is near the end of my presentation, about what we do and things. And I'm in the School of Sustainable Energy Engineering at Simon Fraser University. And I was asked to sort of think about charting a sustainable path out of lockdown, what we need to do for that, how do we move things for that, and sort of framing the different pieces. And so I want to start out with just a land and a privilege acknowledgement. First of all, I live and work on the unceded territories. I live in Burnaby. SFU main campus is in Burnaby, but my campus is in Surrey. And so it's, and then I do quite a lot of recreation in Coquitlam. So I actually live and work on the territories of the Semiahmoo, the Katsi, the Coquitlam, the Kwantlen, the Quite, I'm not entirely sure how to say that one properly, but the Tsawwassen, the Tsleil-Waututh, the Squamish, the Musqueam nations. And I really appreciate that I'm able to live and work in this wonderful environment that we happen to have on the West Coast here. I also want to acknowledge systemic racism and race-based violence and discrimination. There's various forms of that, and I commit myself to use my privilege whenever and wherever I can to promote equity and justice. I think my view of sustainability incorporates a lot of those pieces, and it's important. Whoops, that's the wrong thing. It's important that we keep those pieces in there. And consider how equity and justice connects to the different aspects of sustainability as well. So putting this into context with the lockdown and climate change, the IEA recently came out with a statement that they're expecting that next year, global oil demand could hit record growth rates. So coming out of the lockdown, we could be just starting to burn oil like crazy. Greta Thunberg said climate change is as urgent as the coronavirus. I'm going to dig into that a little bit. And then there's also messages like the US demand for clean energy is connecting up into some of the hydro dams up in northern Canada. And by taking their green energy from northern Canada, they're impacting Indigenous people up there. And so that's all different challenges that are all sort of connected together. So let's look at sustainability a little bit. And these are the 17 Sustainable Development Goals that are put together by the United Nations. And I think they're significant because they connect all these different pieces together. We can't look just at energy, or we can't look just at good health and well-being. So number 7 there is affordable clean energy. Number 3 is good health and well-being. So those are the two sort of core issues that we're looking at with the pandemic, good health and well-being, and with climate change is affordable and clean energy. The clean part is the big issue with climate change. But then climate action is number 13, but those pieces connect to life on land and below the water, and working conditions, inequalities, gender equality, clean water and sanitation. All those pieces come together to define what sustainability is. And in my research group, we try and connect those different pieces together. So let's look at impact of COVID versus climate change. This is actually similar to what Adil was doing earlier, but I'm looking at deaths at this point. And so deaths from COVID currently just under 500,000, which is a stunning number. I'm not sure I can even imagine what that is. Without intervention, there's a report that looked at, say, roughly 40 million potential deaths from COVID, and likely between 1.3 and 10 million, depending on what interventions happen around the globe. Climate change, and the difference really is one is really short. The second one is longer term. Climate change is projected to cause 250,000 deaths per year from now till 2050, so roughly 5 million. So we're roughly in the same ballpark of impact that climate change and COVID will have. Both have a large impact on disadvantaged countries and populations, and I think that's something that we need to keep in mind. How do we chart a sustainable path while keeping that equity in mind as well? So there's an opportunity to support a clean transition. And so there's a report that looked at, here's some of the things that we should do to make it a clean transition. Clean physical infrastructure investment, building efficiency retrofits, education and training, especially unemployment from COVID and structural unemployment, natural capital investment, so make sure that the ecosystems are resilient, and clean R&D investment. I would add some more equity pieces that need to be into that from my perspective, that there needs to be there is a structural unemployment from decarbonization, but I feel that there needs to be a bit more balance as well in how we develop things. So urgency. So that was the opportunity. We have an opportunity to do something because we had carbon drop. But as you can see here, the rebound is already starting to happen. So we had this sort of first little rebound, and here's the second rebound already. We're already starting to use more CO2, or we're starting to emit more CO2 emissions than we did at the bottom of the lockdown. So there's an urgency to start dealing with these things and figuring out what the best paths forward might be. The IEA has come out with a $3 trillion plan for a sustainable recovery. So they say without a sustainable recovery by 2023, we're going to be basically emitting back on the same path that we would have been before. But if we put $3 trillion in, we could continue reducing emissions here. What I find really interesting is that their estimates on GDP say that we still have growth, economic growth. No matter if we go for this sustainable recovery, we can still have effective economic growth. The rest of the world is going to have more growth compared to the advanced economies. We're already seeing that anyway, so that's not a surprising result. My research group looked at the Green-ness stimulus measures that are actually out there right now. So we took the announcements. These are just selected countries. We didn't obviously manage to go through all the 100 and something countries that are out there, but we looked at how green are things out there. So we've got great greenness in France and South Korea. They've really focused on how to make their recoveries green. Germany. It's Germany and South Korea. And then we've got Australia, France, the UK, South Africa, and Canada. Not doing too badly, but not doing really great. And then a lot of different countries are not doing really green-focused recoveries at all. One thing there then is also looking at the equity piece. Should all the countries be expected to do stimulus that's green? So in some of the less well-off countries, maybe it makes sense for that stimulus not to be quite as green as some of the other countries. I would like to see some of the bigger countries that have the resources doing more green stimulus. So then finishing off with what our research group does and how we're trying to address these things. So we're trying to support sustainable development by building effective tools for decision making and looking at big picture questions. The modeling that I do, climate, land, energy, and water systems modeling and the interconnections between those different pieces. We look at how climate change might impact water, how water reductions in water availability might impact the ability of energy plants and things like that. And I put the plus in there because that climate, land, energy, and water, our research group wants to look at energy plus, which is sort of more of the factors that are in there. We include health, equity, and pieces like that. And we work with international partners on global, national, regional sustainable development questions, modeling how those different options work for our different pieces. So how do we effectively have energy for our resources, plus at the same time, effective land use for crops and food production, energy and water, and how do those different pieces fit together? So that's me, that's my presentation. So thank you very much. I'm looking forward to questions and discussion afterwards. And I think I'm pretty close to exactly on time that I said I would be.
Oh, yes.
So,
yes.
there you go. Thank you.